It is being bold, it is being brilliant, it's being non-apologetic about what we're doing.
You know, we had to leverage those abilities and just to come to the table and execute like never before.
Bring in capable people, coach them, make sure they're connected to the outcome, and let them run.
As a leader and with your team, have to have the will to win.
Connecting more with our humanity and, pausing for a moment to be the human beings that we are.
But with humility, you know that you can leverage that skill set that people have and let them be their best.
This will be a time of innovation.
Hi, and welcome to Courageous Leadership in Times of Global Crisis and Uncertainty, an HMG live virtual briefing covering what matters most to drive a winning agenda and make the future a better place. A warm welcome to today's host, Lead Principal and CEO of HMG Strategy, Hunter Muller.
Welcome, everyone, and welcome to the program today. I'm Hunter Muller, Lead Principal and CEO of HMG Strategy. My team and I are delighted that you're here today for our 2020 San Francisco Virtual Summit, Leading Courageously Through Crisis. And thanks to our presenting partners, Zscaler and Tessian. We'll hear from their key thought leaders and founders here shortly. We've been busy at HMG, pivoting digitally, accelerating into the digital space. Hopefully, this is not the first HMG Live broadcast you'll experience. If you go to our homepage and our landing page, you'll look at HMG Live and our events. We have some 20 to 30 live experiences lined up for you over the next 3 months, including upcoming webinars with Citrix and Okta. So thanks for zooming in, and let's get on to the program. Tony, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Hunter. Really appreciate it. It's great to be here. It's great to see you. As you can see, my office is perched right over the Golden Gate Bridge, and I'm really pleased to be here today with all of you.
Hey, Tony, listen, let's call it what it is. It's probably the most unbelievable, unprecedented, let's call it off the hook or insane times in our professional career, professional ascent, uncharted waters, uncharted pathway. What are you seeing about the CIO and tech leaders, CTO and CISO? What's working and what's not? And what are you thinking about when you look for that next great candidate to place at Diversified Search?
Thank you. Well, let me give you sort of three categories, three concepts as they relate to what's been happening in the past couple of months as COVID-19 has impacted us. There's kind of what I call the technology domain, which is your responsibility if you're the CIO or the CTO, the corporate domain, which is your influence domain, and then the people domain, your teams and you. So first off, on technology, the question I'm kind of thinking about is how effective were you? Because some key decisions were made a number of years ago about how do we going to address, what are we going to do about legacy? If you were caught short, this has probably been a pretty tough time. But if you started your technology transformation and started on that roadmap a while ago, addressing modern architectures, app layers focused on customer experience, data, storage, analytic platforms that allowed modeling and all the rest of it, you are hopefully a big hero during this time. But that digital agenda is now being compressed as a result of all of this. So your time is now. Next, the corporate kind of environment. Technology is now recognized as a core driver of value. It's not just a support function, and the purpose of every company is to find and keep customers. IT is now a value creating enabler. So as well as being the sort of the backbone around planning, visibility, scenarios, flexibility, resilience, cybersecurity, the CIO or the top tech leader should already, if not now, a key shaper of future strategy. You kind of got over the hump, but how's it going to look when people start returning to work? What have you learned? What's the medium and long-term thinking? What are the new business models? What are the impacts on manufacturing, supply chain, distribution, customer acquisition, go-to-market strategy? And how do you keep that momentum that happened as a result of COVID-19? How do you keep that going forward so people don't resort to type, they don't resort to stasis? The CIO has to keep in the front and center, influencing, collaborating, building on what's happened. How do you get people to stay at that reinvention table and continue to be disruptive, to think about bigger things, bolder things, and not just let that squeaky wheel get all the attention again?
Hey,
You know,
Tony.
yes.
Hey, Tony. We've been talking about leading, reimagining, reinventing the customer experience,
Yes.
disrupting, reinventing, inventing new business models and ideas. What comes to mind when you think of this crisis? And Ram Shriram, the famous management consultant, says, never let a good crisis go to waste, or never let a crisis go to waste. This is the moment. Is this the time for the tech leader really to accelerate into the line of business, the boardroom, and the C-suite?
100%. And that is, as I say, this is going to be a defining moment. You've either been doing that and you've grasped the opportunity. You know, it was the best of times. It's become the worst of times. It's going to become the best of times again, because the CIO should be in the catbird seat, pushing the organization forward, enabling. Think of sales. Sales is never going to look the same. Do you need all those people traveling around? It's been supported by technology. Technology is going to step in and support that domain. Knowledge workers, agile transformation, all of this stuff. Phenomenal time to be a CIO, be at the table, and drive all of this forward.
What would you say about individuals and giving them advice, coaching people now for decades, placing some of the top people in top positions? Tony, what would you say to them regarding leading courageously and stepping out of your comfort zone? And if you are comfortable, you're probably not in the right place right now, right?
Well, you know, exactly. What this has done, you know, a crisis accentuates who you are and how you work. So during this time, many top CIOs have spent a lot of time marshaling their teams, you're getting people to do phenomenal work, being empathetic with them, leading them, really showing up for their teams in the way that those team members need them to. So here's my big thing. If you are an authentic leader, that authenticity, the culture, the way you've led, that is going to be either reinforced or shown up to be just, you're a bullshit artist and you're all, you know, puff and no performance. So this is really a time, this is a pivotal moment in people's careers, and how you've shown up, how you've come through, how you've led, how you've supported those around you, I think is going to determine the trajectory of your career going forward.
So depending on the marketplace, the portion of the part of the country you're in right now, you're probably well into this whole crisis, maybe 40 days plus.
Yes.
The distributed platforms are laid out. The collaborative tools are laid out. What's next? How best to get with the business and help them reimagine, reinvent the future for current, core, and parallel markets?
Well, you know, if you have been there and you have been a hero, and heroes are people who are others focused. Villains are people who are self-focused. So if you've been a hero and you have shown up for others in your leadership team and for people who work for you in very meaningful ways, you would hopefully have grown your sphere of influence dramatically over this past time. And you've shown yourself to be a really valuable resource to the business. Now, how do you keep that momentum? Hopefully your CEO and the other senior executives will realize that tech is the key enabler to rethinking that business model, as you say, reinventing the business. So if you've developed and you've shown that capability, you now have the credentials, you hopefully have the authenticity to lead in meaningful ways. This is your time. You should be a shaper of strategy going forward. It's no longer kind of right to left, it's now left to right. You should be in that catbird seat, driving where your organization goes and how it reinvents itself. Don't let the squeaky wheel sort of overwhelm the broader agenda of where the organization should be going, because people want to go back to where it was. It's never going to be where it was. It needs to be where it will be.
Well, hey, Tony, most of us probably aren't on the leading edge. What do you do if you're really trying to rethink your whole go-to-market with your business? And how do you reposition IT with the CEO and the C-suite?
Well, yeah, as I said in the opening sentence, many CIOs deal with legacy systems. If you were caught short and those weren't being funded, now's the opportunity to just say, look at what we are. We were a castle and a moat. We had our castle. We had these strong walls. We built up a protective system, and we thought that would see us through. But what we've come to realize is that we need to be part of an ecosystem. We need to be a platform. We need to be open. We need to be attractive. So we need to address some of those legacies and build towards that future. Hopefully that's what you're saying. If you're more in the legacy category, if you're already moving down that path, you need to continue to accelerate toward that platform ecosystem business that can be a phenomenal contributor going forward.
Excellent, Tony. Thank you so much. One final comment about career advice. If someone's in a situation where they're not really happy, what should they be doing? How should they be looking around right now? What are the next things they should be thinking about?
Well, there's two things. One, this is not a great time to abandon ship. So because I look at it, I'm thinking, if you're out of a job right now, you either abandon ship or you got fired. That's not a good image. So kind of hunker down if you can, and then either have a big impact on your current business, chop the wood pile ahead of you, and if you do a phenomenal job, we'll find you. But if you do happen to be out of work, really position yourself to be somebody who can address the challenges that organizations face, and you can be that authentic leader to drive a business forward.
Excellent, Tony. Always great to see you, my friend. I think we'll be seeing a lot of each other virtually over the next couple of months, hopefully in person in August out there in the Valley at the Global Innovation Summit live at the Rosewood Hotel, where we typically have 200 to 400 people at those events all the time.
And thank you, Hunter, for doing such a phenomenal job to enable the CIOs to be better. It's what I really appreciate about you.
Thanks, Tony. Thank you very much. God bless you. We love what we do here. We hope we're pretty good at it. We're working really hard day and night at it. So thanks, Tony. We'll see you next time. Cheers. Next up, Stan Lowe, Global CISO of Zscaler. Stan, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you for using the HMG live background.
Yeah. Instead of my normal Star Wars Imperial Death Star thing I got going, I figured we'd do it this time.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Hey, Stan, there's a lot going on. Unfortunately, the bad guys don't go away during tough times. What, on a global basis, global scale, you see clients all over the world. What are you seeing right now relative to attacks and aggressions towards the enterprise and towards our keys to the U.S., please?
So one of the things that we're seeing is both nation state actors as well as organized criminal elements take advantage of this crisis in order to push whatever agenda that they happen to have, either an influence operation or trying to in the case of criminal organizations, trying to essentially make more money off of this unfortunate event that's going on. And the issue is our workforce is now distributed, so there's no longer that. And I hate to be using this because I've used it for years, but it's a medical term that we've all heard, is herd immunity. As you don't have the ability to pop up over the cube and talk to Kevin and ask Kevin, say, hey man, is this a good email or this is a bad email? So, one of the things that I've been telling the CISOs and the CIOs that we've been talking to is make sure you keep a pace of communication with your users because they don't have that ability to hop down to the help desk. They don't have the ability to ask their neighbor. They're by themselves. So, a good cadence of communication 2 or 3 times a week about how important security is, even though they're not in the workplace, that, the rules and the rules of behavior and their activities are just as important at home as they are in the office.
So excellent. So let's go down one more level with that. Click down one more time. Level of engagement. It's really difficult. Everything changed about 40 days ago. Sure. How to get that message out across a wide distributed workforce around the globe. Many of these companies here today are global organizations.
Sure, absolutely. And that goes back to some of the things that Tony was talking about, which is leadership. The ability to lead your organization. Anybody can lead a successful organization. And the true test of leadership, as was told to me by a cabinet secretary, comes in times of crisis. A crisis brings out the best in your leadership cadre, and it also can bring out the worst. So the true leaders in a crisis will rise to the top, and the bad leaders, or will sort of get shuffled off to the side. Recognizing the fact that hopefully you have put in place a leadership methodology for your employees that allows you to have built that trust beforehand with them to be able to talk to them on a global perspective, because everybody's needs are different based upon the region that they're in. Your workforce in Japan may have a whole separate set of needs and requirements than your workforce that's located in India, or your workforce that's located in the United States. It's a cultural difference as well as a comfort level with their being separated from the mothership, and being able to talk to them and meet the needs of their requirements is a no ifs, no ands, no buts, a leadership exercise.
So let's talk about leadership communication and leadership style, right? How do we break through the digital Zoom world, or the digital video platform world we're all living inside of a 13, 15-inch monitor, 17-inch monitor? How do we get that enrollment, that gut level buy-in, so the team, everyone's all in, Stan?
I think the first issue that you have to face is the fact that, you can't, human beings are herd animals. I mean, we're pack animals. You like having that close association. That's how we develop. And it's more along the lines, when you initially have these meetings, don't just go right into, okay, let's go down our punch list and let's figure out what we're going. Take the time, at least 5 minutes out of the meeting, and reach out and find out what they're doing on a personal level. Ask how they're doing individually, as a group. Don't just rush right into business, because this may be the only time that they have to interact with another adult and that's a peer in their daily work environment. Because even though we're calling this work from home, it's not. It's what Hyatt said, you're trapped at home. This is not a normal work from home environment. You normally have an office set up for those folks that are used to working at home, and you normally have a space that's set aside. And that may not be true for those of your employees that have never worked from home before. They've got all kinds of distractions going on.
Hey, building a team is key, right? And this is the most challenging. This is, someone said to me recently, Hunter, this isn't work from home, it's lockdown, right?
Yep, there we go.
It's lockdown. Let's be clear. Now, I encourage people to make this interactive session here today. Just got from Tim Maxwell a comment saying, hey, what about virtual happy hours? Team building.
Oh yeah, man, I'm a big fan of drinking. So we actually just, oddly enough, we just had one in Zscaler within my team a few minutes ago. Now, granted, you have to keep airport rules in mind. And for me, an airport, you've never been to an airport at any time of the day where there's not somebody in a bar. So, keep that in mind. But, if you do have a global environment, we term it, breakfast, lunch, or happy hour. So we all get together at a specific time, and it's a global team. So we have people that are having either breakfast, or they're having lunch, or they're having a little adult beverage at the end of their day. And just doing something like that once a week helps foster that team culture that keeps in place all the hard work you've done up until this point.
What would you envision the new normal to look like, Stan, when you think about this, the new normal that is unfolding here?
So our roles from a CIO and a CISO perspective have changed. We're looking at our roles before this point as a lot of us were looking at it from a technology perspective. Our jobs now have been, and this has accelerated this process, changing from IT and security from being a technology problem to being a business problem. And that means looking at your role from that perspective. What is your role in making sure that your organization and your business or your vertical can meet its primary mission? And for most of us, that's protecting and driving revenue. What are the things that you need to do to put in place, both to be able to support from a tools and technology and from a security perspective, to allow your organizations to use the tools and connect to the applications and the data for a distributed workforce across the planet? How are you going to support that? Because that's our new normal. We had to, transformation from a legacy architecture into a cloud-based architecture was slowly making its way. This has been a watershed moment where that has accelerated that transformation from now, hey, you maybe had 18 to 24 months to do it. Now you've done it, whether you wanted to do or not. So understanding what your role is in that environment, what your business role is in an environment, and changing your actions and your plans and your methodology and your architecture to be able to support that is you either do it or they'll find somebody who will.
I love that, Stan. What does winning look like for a CISO in this environment and a CIO working hand in glove with the board?
Winning is ensuring that your organization can continue to exist. We can't, security guys are famous for putting the no in innovation. So our job is to make sure that we transform our thinking around, securing everything and everything secure and answering no to everything, to changing our mindset into, hey, what is our job to be able to now enable our businesses to protect and drive revenue, or deliver healthcare, or deliver healthcare outcomes, or if you're the government, deliver mission. Winning is making sure that you align yourself to your organizations to make sure that that happens. That's what winning is.
Excellent, Stan. Love the answer. A question for you. Just broadly speaking, what's unique about Zscaler? What is the one thing you want us to know about Zscaler that makes you uniquely different, and why we should all be asking you for more information, asking to set up a call?
Okay, well, so Zscaler was built in the cloud for the cloud. So we've been preparing for this transformation, or this type of, not necessarily this pandemic, but for this level of transformation for years. This is what we've been planning for, what we've been working towards, the tools and technologies that we've been put in place to be able to enable work from anywhere. So Zscaler's whole mantra is use the cloud for the benefits of the cloud. So being able to, expand exponentially. We just crossed 100 billion transactions a day last week, where before all this started, we were at 60. So, being able to provide your organizations ubiquitous protection and access to applications and data from anywhere in the world, and being able to apply that ubiquitous security policy for them, no matter where they are, that's what we do. Now, there are things that we don't do, and we can happily discuss that, but the ability to provide, keep the bad out, let the good go, and provide ubiquitous access to applications and data for your employees globally, and have a good user experience, that's what we do. And I'll do it all at the same time securely.
Stan, thank you very much. Great thought leadership, great company. Please check out Zscaler, and thank you so much for supporting HMG Live in today's summit.
Well, thanks for having me, and hopefully you all are staying as safe as you can. And again, if you need anything, reach out to anybody here. We'll all answer questions.
Great company, a top pick by HMG. Thanks so much. Welcome to the show, Tim Sadler, CEO and co-founder of Tessian. Tim, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great to see you. Now, I got to just put a little context around this, right? So I noticed a little accent there in our interview getting set for today. There's a little story, a little professional and personal journey story that you want to share with our audience here. You're new to San Francisco.
That's right. Yeah, you can tell by my accent that I'm British, and Tessian was actually founded in London, and we have investors in the Valley. But I made the good decision to move 2 months ago. So I was here for 2 weeks before we went into lockdown. So yeah, but otherwise doing well.
Excellent. Just kind of as a point of interest, who were your VCs that backed you in the various rounds?
Yeah, so we've got different investors, but two of our main investors are Excel and Sequoia.
Awesome. Two top-notch firms in the Valley. Congratulations. Great job.
Thank you.
Talk to us about what is unique about Tessian, and what problem are you solving in the enterprise when you look globally, and we're right now in a whole new work style, lifestyle, distributed environment?
Yeah, so maybe I'll begin just with a little story. So I'm an engineer by training, but I spent the beginning of my career working for one of the world's largest banks. And my co-founders and I saw a huge gap in the way that organizations deal with security. That is that organizations spend millions of dollars and deploy advanced technology to secure their networks and their endpoints. But when it comes to securing their people, it's still pretty much in the dark ages. We're reliant on policies and training to try and educate people to do the right thing 100% of the time. And our belief was that actually we should ask more from technology. So we are building something we call a human layer security platform for the enterprise. And what that is a piece of software to automatically secure people's interaction with the different systems that they use. And today we secure people using email. This is where people spend 40% of their screen time and is one of the highest risk interfaces that people use. We secure people from accidental data loss. So we prevent people from sending highly sensitive information to the wrong people on email. We also secure people from sending sensitive information to their personal email accounts or unauthorized accounts. And we also prevent some of the most advanced forms of business email compromise, spear phishing, and other targeted attacks on the inbound channel. And I should just add, the key thing that we use, the enabling technology for us, has been to use machine learning to achieve this. And somebody, I think it was Stan, spoke about this concept of user experience. Machine learning enables high efficacy and a great user experience. And it's why we can now use software to automatically secure people rather than having to train them to do the right thing 100% of the time.
Fascinating stuff. How have security priorities changed literally overnight?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge shift. And I mean, we've been big believers that now it's time to secure people for a long time. And our investors share that view. I think now, whether people are working in the office, whether they're working in their home office, or whether they're working in their front room, we need to think about how we secure individuals. And crucially, I think doing that in a way that doesn't sap their productivity. So it's really easy to layer in security products and solutions that actually make people's lives harder at work. I think, as leaders, we need to be thinking about how are we balancing security with productivity. And then also this new working dynamic, what does it mean for our employees? So something that we are seeing at Tessian is that there has been a huge spike in COVID-19 phishing attacks. And this is something that we're helping our customers out with, of course, but you need to think about, okay, what does this new working dynamic mean? People can't just go over to somebody else's desk and ask them, hey, did you really send me this email with this invoice? Why do I need to pay it now? We're connecting in different ways. We're distributed across the world. You can't see your colleagues just by peering over. There are also employees now who have a higher propensity to exfiltrate data from your organization's email environment. Hey, I just need to print this document. It's really important. The simplest way to do that is to send it to your personal email account and then print it there. So there are all of these things that we need to consider. And then the other one is just thinking about the well-being of our employees. So it's a stressful time. It's tough. People are working from home. They have, people might have families, they might have kids, and there's distractions. So we've got to make sure that we are doing everything we can to secure people, help them be secure with this changing environment.
So Tim, what changed in 40 days that made such a difference as it relates to the whole architecture and environment? And how are the bad guys taking advantage of this opportunity?
Yeah, so I think the fundamental thing is that, almost every organization around the world is now in the same spot. And it means that the bad guys have got some kind of frame of reference or context through which to phish people or to conduct some kind of social engineering. So if you email somebody at an organization about something related to COVID-19, this is a topic that a lot of people are going to resonate with. So I think it's being mindful of that. The bad guys have got a compelling way of tricking people with the COVID-19 theme. There are then sub themes to that. So if you're in the US and you have healthcare insurance, crafting emails around that. Hey, we need you to log into the portal, or we need you to send us your personal information so we can update your policy to make sure that you've got the adequate protection. That's a huge trend. And I think the other thing is that attackers know that people are going to be more vulnerable during this time. Again, they're maybe paying less attention than they probably would. They're not in the confines of a corporate office where there is there's a security team nearby to run things by or check in on things with. You can't run things by your colleagues. And I think all of those things have been huge shifts. But the key thing in what you said, Hunter, it comes down to, it's just easier to coerce people when everybody is distributed and you're having to rely on digital communications to keep in touch, rather than those physical communication of being in the office and being next to people.
Thank you, Tim. So why in this environment is machine learning a security superpower during times of crisis?
Yeah, I want to be really careful because, I think machine learning as a term gets bandied around a lot, and in many ways it's, we're tired of talking about it. But I do think it's an important driving force, and it's important to understand the context that machine learning has to play in each security solution that you're working with. Now, for us at Tessian, the reason why we use machine learning is because you can't secure against human vulnerabilities using signature-based methods. You can't apply a rule set to determine when an email looks like business email compromise or when somebody is making a mistake on an email. What you need to do is you need to train on a pre-existing data set, in which case we train on our customers' historical email data and then continually retrain every single email that's received into the network. We train on that data to adapt our understanding of what looks like a security threat based on past behavior. So one is efficacy, and actually just being able to detect these threats that were previously impossible to detect with legacy systems of secure email gateways. But the other side of it is that user experience. It's really important that we are able to provide our end users with a user experience that is good. So that means only showing notifications when a genuine security threat is detected. And then in those notifications, our customers call this in situ training. They coined this term for one of our products, which is actually giving users specific reasons what looks unusual about the email they're receiving and why they should be careful. So there's some of the superpowers that we think machine learning has to bring. But fundamentally, it comes down to that balance of efficacy and then user experience from a security perspective.
Excellent, Tim. Tell us a little bit about your personal professional journey. Why Tessian and how you got started? Just 30 seconds on it. We got about 30 seconds left, please.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a first-time CEO, and I guess I'm in many ways a first-time anything. I mean, I spent the beginning of my career working in finance, but I've always been incredibly passionate about building technology to make the lives of people better. And something that I'm super proud of at Tessian, and what myself and all of our team have been able to do is that every day, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people are dependent on our technology to keep them safe. And I think that we are making the enterprise a better place for people. We are actually providing what one of our customers, again, called security for the people rather than security to the people. It's statements like that, and it's the work that we get to do on a daily basis in terms of what we help our customers with that really, really motivates and drives me.
Well, Tim, I'm a big fan of your company's Tessian, big fan of you. Welcome to HMG Live. Welcome to San Francisco. Welcome to the States. And I'd love to have you as part of my HMG Ventures group and the HMG CEO Club. So we'll see you again soon. Awesome.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Right. Again, thanks to Tim Sadler, CEO and co-founder of Tessian, really a fascinating technology executive and an interesting company. I encourage you to check it out, and we'll talk more about the HMG marketplace at a future date. But let's move right to our panel session. We have a distinguished rock star panelists. I can say each of them I've known for quite some time. Really thrilled to be with you here, with all you here today. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules and incredibly driving, I'm sure, agenda in this crisis that we're all through here. And I thought I'd welcome first Larry Quinlan. Larry and I have been friendly. I think Larry spoke at our Chicago summit, oh my gosh, maybe 10 years ago. And I believe at the time it may have been Mark Griesbaum from Chicago or John Phillips, or maybe Mark Polanski made the initial introduction. We were together at the NPower event in the city with the folks from NPower in October. Larry, welcome to the program. And thank you so much for taking your time out of your busy schedule to be HMG Live.
No, it's my pleasure. Where else am I going to go?
Well, welcome. Now, I look at your background, 10 as the global CIO, obviously global reach, 17 years as the US, North America CIO. What's uniquely different about this crisis that we're going through, and what are you seeing across the globe in terms of lessons learned, and how do you want to tee up today's session, today's panel?
Sure.
Larry?
So my thoughts on it are contradictory. On the one hand, this is bigger than anything we've seen before in terms of scope. 9/11 is incredibly tragic and burned in our memories, but in terms of the impact on our businesses worldwide, not even close. In terms of the change in human behavior, not even close. So on one hand, the biggest thing we've ever seen. On the other, contradictory, trying not to over-vector to the lasting impact. Human beings have notoriously short memories, and strategies that drove business leading up to this are still valid in many ways, but still need to be tweaked. So for me in professional services, as we think about the themes we've been sounding, the need to respond, then recover, then thrive, I would say from a technology perspective, we made a number of decisions because of our business model, which is distributed, that made the response, I think, perhaps less difficult than it could otherwise have been. We've re-architected our networks and done a number of things to accommodate mobility and collaboration that allow us to do that. So we're really turning our attention to recovery and thriving. And that's where I think we've got to spend time. What do we need to tweak? How do we get things open? I do believe we still have to get out there and travel. We're not all going to be doing all of our work from home. And we've got to figure out how to reopen some of those offices, how to tweak the business models, and how to make sure we accelerate the kinds of projects that will give us competitive advantage, but at the same time recognizing we're going to have a depressed economic environment for some time, and that means we're going to have to stop certain things. The choices we make are going to be what make us successful.
When you think about leadership style and leadership performance and leaning into a crisis, right? There's a concept of leaning into it, embracing it. Tony mentioned it, Stan mentioned it. What are your thoughts about building a distributed leadership culture that's leaning into this crisis for a better outcome, a better result, for prosperity and growth and learning through this process?
You know, for me, leadership is really about people. Leadership is around demonstrating a few key things. One, that you actually care about the people you're trying to lead and that you actually deserve to be their leader. It's not something you force on others. People have to want to follow you, not just follow because you're their boss. It's the whole notion of servant leadership. So I view myself as being responsible for their well-being and being a catalyst for ensuring that we can create the kind of environment that's important to us. We have a number of values around people first, around inclusion, around well-being. And in times of stress, those things can't just magically disappear. And when things get better, all of a sudden, well, people first, and now we're interested in your well-being. So ensuring there's a level of consistency. Now, with respect to the virtualization and the work from home, absolutely, we have to spend time thinking about that. We've been amping up the work we're doing in our collaboration platforms, our internal platforms. We're providing a level of flexibility. One previous suggestion was spend some time at the beginning of meetings really seeing how people are doing, sending out the random emails. How are you? I haven't seen you in a while. Is your family okay? And just spending time on the human things. Now, the point I made in a leadership team meeting this morning is that there is a huge difference between a transition to work from home and work from home. They're just not the same thing. The transition to work from home is where we get all the kudos and people think in technology we're fantastic. But working from home over an extended period of time is vastly different from the transition itself. This is where we now have to examine lots of processes and figure out where those get tweaked. which ones require for efficiency some travel, which ones are just better suited for some people being together, and which ones we were kidding ourselves before. This could really be done virtually, and not only done virtually, but done better virtually. And let's grab onto those. So it's a question of really thoughtfully going through each of those categories and doubling down on them. But I don't believe the world is, irrevocably changed where we're never going to get together again, where nobody's going to be on the golf courses or anything like that. I don't believe that for a moment. But I do believe it is time to look at this thoughtfully and really seize on the opportunities that it provides us.
Larry, thank you so much. We'll circle back to you here in a moment. Stay with us, please. I'd love to have Sheila Jordan, the CDO, Chief Digital Officer of Honeywell, join us. Sheila, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Hunter. So good to see everyone.
Great to see you across the sunny bridge there behind you across the
I'm
Golden Gate
pretending I'm in San Francisco right now.
But really, where are you?
I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Welcome, a new Charlotte native. Great. Hey, Sheila, a little context of Honeywell, the scale, the scope, global nature, the various businesses, and what interested you, what drove you, what was your passion in connecting to the Honeywell adventure for you, the Honeywell journey?
Yeah, so Fortune 200 company, very, very global. I think 83 countries, significant 110,000 employees, so very, very diverse. We're in the aerospace business. We're in productivity, safety product business, which I'm sure you've all seen that we're amping up our increase in the production of the masks. So that's a really good effort that Honeywell's contributing to. So just a vast, very, very vast opportunity. And one of the areas that I'm super excited about and why I chose to join Honeywell is the CEO and the management team have a really very aggressive vision on digitizing the entire company. So digital transformation. One of the efforts we actually have talked about is Honeywell Connected Enterprise and how we actually connect a lot of the things in the industrial manufacturing world together. So it really becomes much more software focused and much more the ability to connect to that experience. So when I was looking as I was departing Symantec and looking for my next and final kind of opportunity, I wanted to find a CEO that really had in the management team had a vision for digital transformation, but also balancing that with the pragmatic nature of, it's not easy. This isn't easy. We are transforming how we work. We're transforming everything about it. And you have to understand that this isn't a sprinkle pixie dust and ta-da, it's done. And I found that with Darius and the management team is that they really understand the enormity of the change and the shift. And I'll comment back to some of the other points. And the reason I get so excited and the reason why, to what Tony was saying earlier, that I think the CIO, the Chief Digital Technology Officer, whatever they want to call us, we are at the hub of this digital transformation. And the reason is because we have consistently and naturally, part of our DNA is we think and see horizontally. We see across the organization. We have to. We see how things are, the dependencies, the interdependencies, upstream, downstream. If we're fixing one thing, we can't break something else. So it's really, and that's that horizontal and systematic thinking is really what's going to enable digital. I mean, think about our consumer experiences. You might go book a family of 4 on your international trip when we can travel again on United Airlines or one of the airline apps. And what you're doing when you do that digital experience is you're touching marketing, e-commerce, finance, tax. I mean, you're touching so many different functions. So digital transformation is a cross-functional customer experience that I just don't believe there's anyone better and more suited to delivering that and really driving that innovation than the IT leader and or the digital officer, because you get to see how all that connects. It's just natural for us.
So then, Sheila, when you went in, you had the vision, the idea, and you interviewed, as they interviewed you, no doubt you interviewed them, whether you were going to be empowered to deliver against the vision that the CEO and the board wanted, right?
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's a really important point, Hunter, is you got to make sure in these roles that, yes, they can have a vision, but you got to make sure the operating model around that, like the job is structured the right way. It's got some clout in the organization. You can make sure that the company's really ready for that kind of digital. During my interview process, I did interview with a lot of different companies, and some CEOs understood or wanted the digital transformation, but they didn't have any sense of what that meant. and they didn't necessarily have it organized correctly or understand in digital how important the technology is, but so is the data. Like the data is the currency. Data is the currency of digital transformation. So having that kind of together and making sure that those things happen together, the data and the applications and systems, is super important. So yes, it really does have to be the right vision, the right strategy at the right time that the company wants to go deploy that, but also it's got to have the right operating system and model around it.
You know, Sheila, you strike me like an amazing leader, someone who successfully motivates teams. You're passionate, a change agent about this specific team and company that said, I got to go there, I got to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, I think, thank you for saying all that. But I think the thing that is really important during these crises and during these times, and it was repeated earlier, you know, for me to personally stay motivated and to motivate the team is you have to know at some point this will pass. You've got to think short term and do all the tweaks and the adjustments and offering these collaborative solutions. But I think it's a mistake if you get so focused on the crises at hand. You've got to make sure that as a leader, you're looking beyond the crises. You're actually figuring out what we have to do during it, of course, but know that it's going to pass and know that we're going to get through it. And I think taking advantage of this opportunity to say, what can I do for the company that will make the company stronger when this does pass? And I think you got to carve out some real time. And for me, that's personally motivating because yes, we have to deliver all the things we need to do and we have to focus on today and working through the crises. But more importantly, is you got to think kind of beyond that. And that gets, I think, motivational and inspirational for the team to think about.
So you have a real strategic context mindset while you're in the middle leading in the crisis. And
I think it's important because if you don't, you're going to end up making very short-term decisions that won't make sense for the long term. So if there's some key things that you know are critical and strategic for the company, there's no reason for you to stop that work. There's no reason for you to say, okay, everything has to be focused on the crises at hand. It's a fine balance to figure out what needs to be, paused or needs to be considered. Maybe we can get to it later while we're dealing with the crises, because there actually has to be absolutely some reprioritization. But staying true to the vision and staying true to that North Star and staying true to what's going to make the company stronger when you get out of it is as important as dealing with the crises at hand.
Hey, Sheila, we have a question in from one of our audience attendees, Julie Cullivan, your dear friend, says, what an amazing leader Sheila is. We'd all agree with that. You get the gold.
Well, right back at Julie. She's also an amazing leader. So
you get several gold stars today. Okay, so she says, how did you build commitment with an organization when you were so new?
Well, I think you said it earlier, is that you got to walk in and through years of experience, experience builds confidence. And so my time at Symantec, I learned a lot at Symantec. I had many CEOs that came in. We were doing divestitures, acquisitions, ERP consolidation, public cloud. We did so much work, and I am so grateful for that experience because it does teach you that experience. And while Honeywell's different and the scale is certainly, significantly different, the issues and the problems aren't. And so being able to walk in and use and leverage your experience and being able to communicate that vision. And I go back to someone earlier said, it is impossible to over communicate during a crisis. Absolutely impossible. So whether it's the showing the empathy and reaching out to your teams or communicating your vision or communicating what you are doing, what you're not doing, everyone is a little nervous and scared right now. Everyone is worried. Everybody you meet and interact with has a personal issue going on. I think it's as a leader that's super important that you remember that. But they look to us to make sure that we're instilling that calm. We're instilling the focus. We're trying to make things as normal and as business normal and status quo as much as we can. So a leader cannot over communicate during a time of a crisis. And I think that it's another thing I learned during all the change that we went through with Symantec is you just have to continue to over communicate. Excellent.
Thank you, Sheila. Stay with us. We'll be back to you here in a few minutes. Sylvie, I'd like to welcome you on the program. Sylvie Veilleux from Dropbox. Sylvie, welcome. The Global CIO at Dropbox. Great to see you here today.
Thank you for inviting me. Super happy to be here with this great group.
It's an amazing group, right? All-star panel. Hey, Sylvie, you guys are an amazing company in the past, 10 plus years? You'll know the exact date, years in business, but a native in the cloud, a native tech digital company. Dropbox is so everywhere, right? Give us an update on Dropbox. Where are you folks in the marketplace, and what's the vision? Where are you going, and what are you how are you trying to help the enterprise?
Thank you for asking. Well, first of all, Dropbox has a very interesting mission. It's about designing a more enlightened way of working. So that is very inspiring. And last year we launched a new category around smart workspaces. And what that comes down to is about making work more human and removing the interruptions that technology is giving everybody every day between switching in tools and being interrupted. So we want to create that flow back into how we work. So at a very high level, that's what Dropbox is all about.
Excellent, excellent. So what's the most important aspect of your role in leading through this unusual time, this crisis?
Yeah, I think it comes down to, what Larry and Sheila already mentioned in some form or way. It's you're a leader of people, and the important thing you need to do is to be able to balance that empathy, that resiliency, and also being forward-looking. You have to balance those three. And if you unpack this a little bit, being empathetic is about showing up as your true self, not the person you think you should be showing up. People will want to see that authenticity. And I believe there's also a great part of this is being a great listener, understanding those subtle cues you're getting, the challenges that your teams are having, and being heard. And then you need to be a learner. And Sheila brought that up. As you learn and learn and learn over time, you need to change and challenge that status quo. And then the last part of it about being resilient leader, you have to really focus on that way forward and stay very flexible and drive that change. So I think those are very key aspects in a leadership role when you're going through crisis.
Sylvie, I've noticed something in researching your background, that you're data-driven and you like to pride yourself around data-driven solutions. Give us a little picture what that looks like, a little story there, please.
Well, there's a lot we talk about data, but the most important thing is you need to understand what you're solving for, and data and insights is key, right? If you don't know who and what you're building for, then what you're building and who it's going to go to is not going to meet the needs of that ultimate customer. So I think having a data strategy that helps you make informed decisions is key along the way, but your systems and tools need to provide you the insights throughout its entire life cycle so you can continue to improve the product you're creating.
So in a digital company like Dropbox, you must have insane kind of feedback from your customers real time, 24/7, 365, right?
Of course, our customers are the most important thing.
How could we all learn in the enterprise, us enterprise executives that might be working a little bit more of a dated environment, a legacy environment, how could we learn more about being effective in a real-time data-driven market?
One of the things that most companies have learned as part of going cloud and cloud first or SaaS first is I truly believe is you up level where you're starting from and you build up and not from the bottom. So one of the things to do is to ensure you have a great data platform that allows you to focus on data and not infrastructure. And the same thing, you bring in the tools that allow you to focus on insights instead of queries. So if you think about that whole world and how it's changed, you're advancing yourself much more quickly than the traditional legacy, let's build, tables and queries and backend data stores.
Thank you, Sylvie. Another question from our friend on the West Coast, Julie Cullivan. How are you approaching the future and the next steps as the crisis eases and we'll get back to the new normal?
Well, that's a great question. I think the new future is about taking advantage of this crises in some form or way. There is a silver lining, and it's all about how you drive change and culture and you innovate through this. And part of that is the ability to have those positive emotions. And if you think about how this crisis has changed the environment, right? Like we have a much better air quality. Animals are quadrupling in the national forest because humans are not there. Our healthcare, our education system is changed dramatically. And if we hadn't had this crisis, these things would have not happened as quickly. So how do we be motivated and inspired by these changes and bring that to our corps and our environments and change how we think about the work life balance of our workers going forward? And how do you create that set of boundaries for them so they have the ability to move from work to life to entertainment to back to work? So I think those are the things, is how you change and transform. You take this opportunity where people are open to that change, and it's a much more fluid environment to do this.
I have so many more questions for you, Sylvie. We'll be back to it in just a minute. Thank you. Stay with us. I want to welcome John Repko, Executive Vice President and CIO at AIG, and runs, I understand, procurement. John, welcome to the program.
Oh, happy to be here, Hunter, and nice to see everyone.
Great to see everyone as well, right? And good to see you, my friend. John, tell me a little context about AIG in your role, the size, scope, scale, the business lines and such, and your reporting structure.
Sure. So I do report up to our CEO. Been in the role about 18 months. Split my time between the office in New York City and here in central New Jersey. So we're a leading P&C as well as life and retirement company. Near 50 billion in revenue, near 50,000 employees in 80 countries. And I think about, why did I go to AIG? Two things come to mind. If you followed AIG or insurance closely over the years, we've had a bunch of CIOs in and out. Some tell me it's 6 and 10 years. One of the reasons I'm there is I want to be the person who leads this organization to the next level on a sustainable basis. And then secondly, clearly AIG is in a state of transformation. And just being part of that drives a lot of satisfaction.
Great. Must be an exciting time. A lot of moving parts. 83 countries, did I hear that right?
That's Sheila. 3 more than us.
80, got it. Okay, 80 and 83, that's pretty close. Interesting stats. They're all in the same ballpark. What are the key findings or learnings that you've experienced, John, through this crisis?
Yeah, so here's what I see in our company and a bunch of others. Leadership teams are really reflecting on what this whole means. After everyone on the call, got everybody working from home, ironed out all the processes, mostly what we're reflecting on right now is what is this new normal? What new business models are going to be driven by it? We're thinking about basic things. Let's face it. When we designed our BCP and DR across all industries, we designed it for weather. Not a moment was thought about a global pandemic. Then when we think about use of collaboration tools, most companies, maybe had C- type of work. Companies that had never even thought about global video conferencing, Zooming, are now at 300 to 400% more usage than they were before the crisis. So from where I sit, our leadership team is thinking about what's on the other end of this and what are going to be the positive silver linings that come out of this that can drive business value, and then how we as IT professionals can drive that value.
What do you see as that silver lining?
Well, I'll just tell you that the ability for people to come together, fully leverage the tools that for years we've had available to them, and now they're dying for the use of these tools. Being able to reach out and touch folks instantly, and then just new business models, I think are all silver linings.
John, when you think about it, one of the perhaps the most prolific management consultants of all time was Peter Drucker, and we lost him about 10 years ago. And he talked about strategy, strategy eating breakfast. What's this? Is breakfast strategy, breakfast. Anyways, culture matters, right? Culture is important. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. There it is. Okay, so with that in mind, and now with all of these collaboration tools, whether it's Slack, some other video platform like Microsoft Teams or Zoom or RingCentral or WebEx, have you noticed an increased productivity, an accelerated productivity of your own technology group, as well as the collaboration with the business via managing through video, being able to move in and move around the organization at lightning speed?
Yeah, I'll give you 2 examples. One of the things I've been doing now for about 7 weeks is committing to 4 skip-level meetings via video across the globe every week, touching about 60 leaders a week. And I have to tell you that that has made a tremendous impact. As someone said earlier, everybody's got a personal issue. Everybody wants to feel assured that we're going to be okay. And then secondarily, in some of our operations, we've actually seen metrics improve, which almost blows my mind. It's almost like there's extra energy in the workforce.
Can I just add a comment on that? Because I studied this quite extensively at Cisco. And the reason I love video so much, because video really builds trust inside an organization. There's 2 facts I want to share. 80% of calls that are audio only, 80% of the people are multitasking. So they're not really paying attention. And the second is on communication, 54% of communication is nonverbal. So when you can see someone and you can see they're engaged and they're leaning in and you can see that they're smiling and interacting, it's so much different than you talking to yourself on a call that's audio only. So I would just encourage everyone to just turn your video on right now. It's a form of connection that is, it's not like real, it's not live, but it's just as good. And it really builds trust inside an organization.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I was going to share, let's face it, in the coming weeks and months, all of us, we're going to do board meetings on video. Our public companies all have shareholder meetings. This lockdown has created a situation where we have no choice than to leverage these tools. And I look forward to the other side of this, when this will be the new normal.
Thank you, John. When you think about it, a crisis really redefines everything going forward, right? As you walk through it and step through it. And everyone reacts differently to the situation, given their background, their context, their family situation. What are some lessons that you'd like to share, John, relative to how you lead in a crisis and what you've learned over the years?
Yeah, well, some block and tackling. So, and I'm sure many companies are doing this, but we start every weekday with an incident management team, getting a situational update in terms of what's going on with this virus, and then adjusting throughout the day. And I'm sure that's a best practice in many areas. Many of my IT teams do the same on the operations area. Like Sheila said, you can't over communicate. So, right now, I believe it's my role to do that. I'm reaching out for absolutely no reason to leaders across the world, checking in. It's just amazing what you can learn. And at the end of the day, I think one of the things that really matter, particularly at the top, is to model the behavior, calm, adult, rational decisions. Because if they see us at the top, and we're not being rational, we're not calm, that's just going to echo throughout the organization.
So what have you learned, John, that 1 or 2 nuggets out of this crisis? There'll be something next year, there'll be another crisis, it'll be something different.
We certainly all learned a lot about supply chain. And being that I oversee the procurement function, as well as the IT function, I think we've got to think about permanent provisioning, almost instant provisioning. We got to think about those areas of the world where maybe our network isn't really where it needs to be. We have lists of hundreds and hundreds of post-COVID-19 tweaks that we need to do.
Got it. An incredible global career, John. What are you doing right now to be sure that your global partners, your global supply chain is right? Any tips that you can share?
Lots of C-level discussions.
Okay.
You know, it's not always natural for us as IT leaders to reach out to our suppliers and say thank you to a Larry or to a Cisco. But I really believe our partners really enabled us through this crisis. So I start every discussion with a thank you, and then what can we do better to make sure that we don't have the situation with supply chain that we all dealt with.
You know, you're talking about being thankful and gratitude. Larry was talking about servant leadership. Jim Swanson was on the summit for the New Jersey call last week, talking about gratitude and humility. There's a different leadership style that seems to be emerging. You want to comment on that, John?
Well, sure. You know, let's face it, this is a high stress situation for all of us. And it doesn't matter whether you're at the top of the organization or in the internship program. Being your authentic self in a time of extreme stress and emergency, I believe is a sign of a strong leader. And people will notice and they'll follow you.
Excellent. Thanks, John. Stay with us. I'll be back in minutes. Larry, when you please join the program. Larry, you've had an amazing career again at Deloitte. Do you see this crisis as at a pivot turning point and an opportunity to advance a big agenda?
I think the answer is yes, but in a different way. Some of my earlier comments, I don't believe the world is shattering and everything's going to change and we have to redo everything we've ever learned. I continuously make the point that we have a lot of good strategy that really needs to continue, that we need to thrive. But as John said, there are a number of areas that we need to tweak. There are a number of opportunities we need to take advantage of, and that's the pivot for me. So the pivot doesn't come with abandoning what we used to do, shattering everything we held dear. The pivot really comes from a thoughtful approach to analyzing the areas that we have now been taught through this process that we can do well differently, faster, cheaper, better, with perhaps stronger touch. And really figuring out the other areas where we can't wait to get back to the way we need to do it because it really isn't as effective today as it was. And we really need to understand the difference. We got to accelerate some projects for competitive advantage. We got to slow some things down. And I think as leaders, our role is to make those right decisions and to have a batting average that's really good, as opposed to simply saying, hey, it's a new normal, the world's going to change, everything's going to change, let's go down a completely different path. I'm not sure that works.
Larry, you have an amazing company and an amazing client roster of happy clients. There must be a motto or a credo at the company and how you view your clients. Do you care to share a piece of that or a point of inspiration and hope?
Sure. You know, for us, clients and people, those are the things we really focus on. We pride ourselves on being a client-centric organization that puts people first. We believe we're in the business to serve clients, to help them solve their toughest problems. And that's why we exist, and that's why people trust us. We're not here just to promote ourselves. We're not here just to create new market opportunities. We're really here to serve our clients and to help them solve their toughest problems. We believe that if we take care of our people and we keep that as the centerpiece of our strategy, that we'll be around for a long time thriving. That's the ethos.
Thank you. Well, Larry, will the face-to-face meeting in business ever go away? The need to meet people face-to-face over coffee, lunch, in the boardroom, over dinner?
No, my prediction is it will never go away. There was a Spanish flu that killed 50 million people in nightclubs still exist. That ought to teach us something, right? So it will never go away. Human beings need contact. How are the next generation going to get married if Zoom's the only thing they know? Right? The human beings will get together again soon.
Okay. And lessons learned relative to the digital platform. What were you really shocked or surprised that an individual with your background and pedigree, you learned something about yourself in the past 40 days and said, wow, that was interesting or different? Or how are you managing different in this digital world through video?
I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned that while my life of constant travel is clearly overrated and I don't want to be on a plane every day, that I did thrive on the different situations. The fact that I had a breakfast meeting with this person today, followed by going to Europe to really pitch to the board an important effort with a fantastic meal with the team in Tokyo. All of those things actually mattered. And I'm not ashamed to say I miss that. I miss getting out there. I miss getting on a plane and really meeting with people. The getting up every single day and being on, 40 audio and web and video conferences, after a while, there's a monotony around it. And sometimes you want to do, I really want to wake up early for that phone call, for that video. And it's kind of different from the excitement of having a great breakfast with someone you hadn't met before. So I've learned that about myself, and I have to compensate. I have to make the days look different. I have to grab back hold of my calendar a little bit, and got to realize that you got to put energy into these video meetings and these voice meetings, because after the 25th one, you're kind of monotonous and you're really not adding energy to the situation. And I've learned that I've really got to change the way I operate in a post-COVID world.
I can only imagine, Larry, you probably could work around the globe 18 hours a day.
And that's part of the challenge. You just kind of roll into it. Sometimes I say my assistant is offended by white space on the calendar. So you just kind of roll from meeting to video to call to, and it becomes a challenge. And sometimes you got to step back. What am I trying to accomplish? Who are the people that I'm really focused on? What kind of energy are we bringing to this? And I learned that I've got to do that consciously. And I didn't have to do it consciously before, because the situations I were in naturally lent themselves to energy. And now you've got to make sure we're creating that energy. And I had to learn that.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Larry. We'll be back to here in just a minute. Please stay with us. Sheila, welcome back. Sheila, what has been a life learning lesson on leadership through this crisis, and what are you doing differently?
I'm trying it off of mute. Okay. So I would say in general that you got to stay super focused on, and this isn't the first crisis again, and a lot of us with lots of experience have gone through many, many crises. This is very, very, very different and unprecedented and global and all of that. But my biggest learning through all this, and it keeps me so grounded, is you got to really focus on the things that you can control. I mean, there's so much noise in the system, and there's so many opinions, and there's so many things. The last time I checked, I am not going to create a vaccine. I don't know how to do that. It's not in my wheelhouse. I'm not going to do that. And I'm going to let the other people, the experts that know how to do that, do that. So I think it's super important that you really focus on the things that you can make a difference, that you can control, that you can make an impact, that you communicate, all the things we mentioned earlier. But it's just really important that you can I stay energized and focused on the things that I can control, and don't let all the noise and opinions and perspectives, and I mean, you start watching the news and it can get quite depressing. So I think it's just really important that you stay focused on the things you can. The other thing I think we talked about earlier too, but being super connected right now, and I really mean connected, like having those different conversations with different aspects of the people, whether it's the business, whether it's your employees, whether it's your leadership team, whatever that is, but saying, going out, reaching out, extending the olive branch and really saying, I care, I'm here, what's happening, this is what's going on in my view. So having those conversations and showing that you care is important. But then I'd also go back to saying, defining the balance that is about solving the crises at hand but making sure that, because it's going to pass and it's going to get over, that you're ready for that. Like taking advantage of this time to do whatever you need to do to clean your own organization up, to clean legacy systems up, do something that's going to make the company stronger and more impactful when we're out of it.
Thanks, Sheila. You know, we often like to take a personal angle, a personal approach on our program at HMG, whether it be a summit or virtual. I know you, about a year ago, finished up a really interesting project, a book that I think you're really quite proud of. I'd love to really help promote it for you, not only today, but in the future. Can you share with us a little bit about the book and why you were so and passionate in writing the book?
Yeah, so it's really a positive perspective of a working mother. And so when my kids are now 25 and 27, thank you for asking, by the way, but 25 and 27, and you know, I'm on the other side of it, and they're through college and they're both working, they're almost off the payroll. And it dawned on me when they were a freshman in college, when they went away to college, that they were mature, they were independent thinkers. There was a lot of attributes that I saw as they kind of went away to college. And I thought, God, I really didn't ruin my kids, because for years, there's nothing written about the notion of a positive perspective that a working mother has on children. In fact, it's the exact opposite. There's a bunch of guilt. There's a bunch of all the things you're doing wrong. There's a ton of psychology books out there about how you are ruining your kids and all the things that they're not getting by you working. And so I had this epiphany that, gosh, I hadn't ruined them, which is the name of the book. You are not ruining your kids. And really, it's meant to be tips and tricks about how we got through it. I'm not proclaiming I'm the best mother in the world, but we got through it, and there was some tips and tricks along the way. And it really is ways to remove the guilt and make choices, and you know, make decisions and choices that, you know, that you don't have to be the super mom and the super woman to get everything done and have everything cleaned and all the things that you got to do. You got to make those choices and priorities and decisions like you do in your professional environment. So it's a quick read, and it's just some tips and tricks about a positive perspective of a working mom.
Excellent. And you obviously, thanks for sharing that. You obviously keep your energy level high. You must be working out, and you have your own home gym, right?
Yes, I do. I'm so excited. So I got in Peloton before all this happened, and you know, just love that. But then for Christmas this year, Santa Claus brought me the mirror. So if you haven't seen the mirror, it's 800 classes at your disposal, whether it's kickboxing or Pilates or full body toning. I mean, the first day I did the full body toning, I couldn't walk for a week. So it's amazing. And it's in your own gym and all on your app, and it tracks every kind of metric you'd ever want to know and not know. So yes, Peloton in the mirror.
Oh, that's fascinating. Well, let's put that on the shopping list, an upcoming birthday or the holidays. Thank you, Sheila. Sylvie, can you join the program again, please? Welcome back. You know, Sylvie, you have an interesting perspective at a company like Dropbox, the kind of companies you work with all over the world, including really gigantic companies and small, mid-sized companies. What's uniquely different? How are you helping workflow and document sharing and storage with companies like Apple? And what are you doing differently with these high-tech digital companies? Why do they love you guys so much?
Well, I think the big difference, thank you. The big difference with Dropbox is we're much more than a file share and sync. We're really about creating that smart workspace. It's about decluttering your workspace, your work environment, and removing those interruptions. And we believe in these best of breed tools. So we're bringing them all together, and they're surfacing the information and the content that you need at the moment you need. So we're about people. We're about making people happy and productive. It's way different than the file and sync. So any industry can benefit from that, from a small company to an individual professional to a large enterprise. We have the solutions for that. And keeping people connected is our primary focus.
Love it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Your final kind of takeaway out of this whole experience through the crisis, how you might think differently or manage differently or lead differently? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, I think one of the things that people are realizing as part of a crisis, that the form of gratitude comes much more deeply than ever in the past. You have gratitude, of course, for all the first responders, but you have much greater gratitude as well for the simple things in life, the simple gestures that create joy. And it's like the question people ask, how are you doing? really means something, right, today. And it's not just an opener. So I think that in itself, creates the ability to stay positive. And as you lean into going forward, like bringing that to work every day and making work more human, right, on an ongoing basis is going to be really, really important. And I think the workforce of the future is all about being human. It's all about having time for the good things in life and not just working, which, most of us have raised ourselves in the work culture. The new generation wants to live and then work. So I think we can bring that to work every day and make it a much more joyful place.
Excellent. Thanks. Thank you, Sylvie. Stay with us, please. And John, do you want to join me, please, back on the program? John, managing a global organization, how do you adjust your style to different markets?
That's a great question. Our default, at least mine, is to get out, as Larry said, on a plane and experience the different cultures and understand the teams and, build trust. And I'm still relatively new, so I'm still meeting parts of the organization. Just recently doing it with video and 2 translators is just the way of life right now. So I've certainly learned to experience these types of cultural differences, understand them, and drive the right outcomes. The biggest topic we've talked about as leadership team, and what I see across our whole industry, and quite frankly, multiple industries, is to make sure that we're bold when we take a pivot on the other side of COVID-19 and not lose an opportunity for a permanent and sustainable change.
How's it changed your vision or your go-to-market? Not that you want to share with us the go-to-market, but be bold is a really strong message. That's really spot on. I love it.
Well, what we're seeing was kind of a slow crawl in the insurance industry of moving from manual processes to digitized processes. And we're hoping to see permanent correction and see the velocity that's needed. When compared to, let's say, banking or other industries.
John, more on a personal level, you've been a CIO transformational winner of HMG's of the Year several years ago. More recently, a top tech leader to watch. What is it about what we're doing here at HMG that matters and is making a difference in the industry? And why do you always say so kindly, I want to stay connected and give back? What is it about your ethos and your operating model, your professional operating model, how you manage your career, and the value you see at HMG here?
The power of the network for a CIO is something that might sound cliche, but it is absolutely the way it works. Just to tell a quick story, I hadn't been able to check in with Sheila in a few years, but I knew exactly about her role in Honeywell. And when she needed help just a few years ago, through you, Hunter, you put us together and we were able to solve a couple of issues. I really would stress, in a time like this, when maybe no one has time to get to a conference, make sure you double down on your network. The top 100 or 500 closest CIOs in your network are going to be part of your success.
You remember, John, when we connected about 10 years ago, I think 3 roles ago, as a global CIO and the HMG CIO Alliance, a few meetings over the years and the impact that those meetings hopefully added and helped.
For sure. And let's not be afraid to give back. Networking is first and foremost about giving. And then when you need one of your old friends, they'll be there for you.
Larry, a question for John or an observation for John? Obviously, you guys have a long-lasting relationship.
Sure. One question just on the insurance industry itself. Do you really think that, given this massive impacts we're seeing around viruses, and then there's been an overactive year for hurricanes, etc. You know, do you think that the insurance industry changes dramatically as a result, not just of this, but a series of major events that are just rippling through the world?
I think that's a great question. Now, of course, I'm a manufacturing guy who just became an insurance guy 20 months ago, so I will need a little flexibility here. But speaking at the top of the industry, clearly, you see in the press right now, Washington challenging the pandemic exclusions that are so prevalent in our industry. And that's going to be a topic that you're going to want to watch very, very closely, and will no doubt change the way folks view underwriting going forward. So, you know, it is an extreme time of change, I think, for financial services as well as the insurance sector.
Thank you.
Hey, John, is it the best time ever to be a tech professional? What do you think?
I think so, for sure. Like Sheila, you know, I carefully selected my sixth and last CIO assignment. I hope to make a big change, but there won't be a seventh. So I'm enjoying it while we can.
And a final comment, inspiration, or hope for our audience. We have had over 200 people program today.
Well, again, I want to go back to networking because, you know, this isn't about 4 or 5 of us talking. There's several hundred here. There is nothing more important to your career and your growth than your network, but you have to be authentic. You have to be authentic in your networking. And I meant what I said. You should have a ratio of giving back 4 times every time you check in with your network or something. And if you can ascribe to that 4 to 1, you're going to be a trusted colleague.
Excellent. John, we do have to wrap the program here. I really want to thank all of our speaker panelists today, John, Sylvie, Sheila, and Larry. Really appreciate it. Please join us at any one of the probably 20 plus virtual summits that we'll be running over the next 2 months at HMG Live at hmgstrategy.com, as well as stay engaged. Take care, folks. Be safe, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Hunter.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.